emotional when I share this story, and I don't know why I thought I'd be able to do it on camera with you guys and not be emotional about it. Welcome back to A Chosen CoverGirl, where we talk about living life full of joy, confidence, and faith, as well as everything in between. I'm your girl, Daniela. So in the spirit of World Prematurity Day that's coming up, and in the spirit of November being Prematurity Month, I'm here to talk about faith and how your faith will sustain you. And I'm here to talk about how sometimes you try not to over spiritualize things, but all you can do is say, but God. It's no secret by now, if you guys have been watching my videos, or if you're new, I have a preemie. He was born 27 weeks. His name is Josiah, 2 pounds, 12 ounces. When my child was in NICU, I was like, there's nothing I can do about this situation. Nothing. You know what I did? I prayed and I remained faithful. And I remember I would pump. I hate pumping. For you mothers out there, whether your child was preemie or full term, and if you had to pump and you loved it, more power to you. But I hate pumping. But I remember I pumped and I pumped because that was all that I had in my power to help my child. He was still being fed through a feeding tube, and then they would eventually feed him, my milk. But I pumped, knowing that this is what I could do. This was all I could do to help him. And that's how I felt when I prayed. And that's how I felt about standing in faith. This was all I could do. That's all I could do, was leave it up to God and pray and be faithful and trust that my child was going to make it through and that he would be all right. Sometimes I don't like to over spiritualize things, like I said before, but some things, that's all it is. It is the Spirit. It's the Spirit of God that moves us and tells us what to do, what not to do, what to say, what not to say, the things that we should and should not engage in. It's the Spirit of God. So when you're walking and talking and moving in the Spirit, sometimes you don't realize why you're doing something that you're doing, but you're flowing with it because you're allowing the Spirit of God that's in you to move you. This particular day, I was commuting into the office. And what I'll usually do is during this season in my life, I would park my car and then I would get on the express bus and I would go into the office. And during my commute every morning, I would chit chat with my girlfriends, and it just made the commute easier than being on that dreadful cold bus. We'd always have our talks in the morning. This particular morning, I didn't want to talk on the phone, so I didn't engage in conversation. And I put on a song, and I listened to that song over and over and over and over and over again. And usually when I get into the office, I'll have my coffee, I'll kick it with my colleagues, I'll walk up and down the halls before I settle down because I'm such a people person, and it takes a while for me to get my butt settled into work, and even then I'm easily distracted and I will move on and stop my work and find myself around the water cooler just chit-chatting. But this particular morning I got into the office and I sat my butt down and I put that song on the computer and I did my work, and that song played over and over and over again, and I would sing it and I would sing it, and the words of the song would say, Spirit, lead me to a place that's without borders. Let me walk upon the waters wherever you would call me. Take me deeper to a place that, it was talking about and asking God to take me deeper in faith. Take me deeper in faith, where no matter what happens, I trust you. No matter what happens, I trust you. And who knew that particular day, I got a call. I don't think I should do this. Ooh, I don't know. I always get emotional when I share this story, and I don't know why I thought I'd be able to do it on camera with you guys and not be emotional about it. I was in the office and I got a call from my husband saying that he was taking Josiah to the hospital. The thing about it, he has hydrocephalus. That was one of the medical conditions that he suffered from being born early. He has had multiple surgeries. He's had a shunt revisions. He's had, what other surgery was that? He's had an ETV, endoscopic third ventricular something. So I got a call that he was going into the hospital. And I remember in that moment, I knew that my spirit knew this was going to happen. Like, I didn't know, but that's what, like, it was inexplainable. I couldn't explain why I detoured from my normal routine that I would do every single morning. I couldn't explain why I couldn't get that song out of my spirit. I couldn't explain it. It was beyond me. I kept singing it like a broken routine. It was like a broken record. It stayed on repeat on my computer, on my phone, and I just kept singing it and singing it. And thankfully, as I said, all right, I'm back. Let's hope I can get through the rest of this without crying. Okay. So as I said earlier, I caught the bus into the office. So I had a colleague, a really good friend, drop me off at the hospital. And my son stayed in the hospital that time for over a week because his shunt failed. And that's when he had this particular surgery, this particular brain surgery where it's called an ETV, endoscopic third ventriculoscopy. So where they go in and they create a hole where the fluid can flow now. So when he has pressure in his brain, it causes a lot of medical issues. And guys, I honestly think this might be one of those videos that I'm going to need you to like, because I think it's going to be one of those videos that my husband is not going to appreciate the fact that I disclose so much of, our son's, business out there and information and just what he's gone through. But like I said, his business is my business. So, hey. Okay, so during this visit, because of the pressure that was built up, my son lost his vision in one of his eyes. I'm still praying and believing that, God is going to restore the sight in his other eye, because I serve a God who is able and who is willing, because the same God who rose Lazarus from the dead, the same God who healed the woman with the issue of blood, is the God that I serve, and he is able. So I am still believing that, okay? So even though I get emotional when it comes to sharing my testimony, I'm still walking in faith and living in faith. I will just remember looking back at that day and knowing that the Spirit from that morning was preparing me for what was to come. And I truly believe that in our lives, if we're still enough, and if we allow ourselves to be led by the Spirit, if we allow ourselves to walk in faith, if we allow ourselves to be silent and to be still and hear the voice of the Lord, then he will carry us through. Just don't question it. Don't resist it. Just flow with it. That's what I truly, truly believe. And I've said it before, like, the joy of the Lord is my strength. Because of my faith, not only was I able to get through that day, I've been able to get through many days, because it's not easy when you have a child who has, medical issues or whatever the situation may be. Sometimes it's hard. It's really hard, but you have to dig deep and activate your faith. Dig deep and walk in faith. Continue to show up. The enemy wants us to be in a corner crying, woe is me. The enemy wants us to feel defeated, but continue to show up. Continue to show up. I would go into work when my child was in NICU, and I would still be the happy-go-lucky, carefree, spirited, joyful person that I am. I would still have a smile on my face, and that is because that's all I could do. I didn't have the power to keep him alive. The only thing I could do was continue to be faithful and to speak life into him, and to speak those words of life into him. You shall live and not die. That's all I could do. And I showed up. I showed up to baby showers. I showed up to birthdays. I showed up. I showed up. You know, and some of you don't know how to show up. When you're going through something, you know, you retreat and you isolate yourself when you don't know how to continue to show up. But that's the enemy. He wants to isolate you. He wants to depress you. He wants you to make you feel like life isn't worth living, but it is. It always is, because every day above ground is better than 6 feet below ground. Every day, I tell you. I promise, it gets better. We had some tough times, absolutely. But now Josiah is 8 years old, and he brings me so much joy. He brings our family so much joy. Can he be annoying? Yeah, like any other child. Can he be just a handful like any other child? Absolutely. But I can't imagine life without him. I can't imagine life without him as he is today. As he is. Shout out to all my mommies. Shout out to all my preemie babies. Shout out to you all who have some preemies out there, 19 weeks, 20 weeks, 21 weeks, 20 anything weeks, you know, 20 anything weeks, because every day, every week makes a difference when it comes to the development of kids. I mean, we all know that. So shout out to all my mommies out there. And if you're struggling, know that you are not alone. You are not alone. Mommies, it's gonna get better. It's gonna get better. It's hard, but it's gonna get better. It will. It's gonna get better. It's gonna get better. And I pray for those truly who have lost a child, who have prematurely, you know, lost a child. I just pray that God will comfort you during this time, and that you will carry the spirit of your child with you. And I'm just praying for the joy and the strength of the Lord to be with you. That's my story, guys. I hope it helps somebody. Stay faithful, walk in the spirit. And you got this. Your child will be all right. You got this. You got this. Just stay faithful. We got this. God is good.